the youth of Pakistan and everything that they've done to make Pakistan a resilient community as we head into the new future. To start off, I would actually like to share a little story from one of my excursions and one of my workings with the youth of Pakistan. So the year is 2022. Pakistan is reeling by the floods, the ravages of climate change. I'm in Punjab. I'm working with my own initiative, and I'm working with the youth of Pakistan. There's an 8-year-old boy who literally has scars on his face, blood dripping down his legs. And as I try to support him and as I try to give him some care, the first thing he says is, "Have a look at my sister. She needs more care than I do." That is the spirit of resilience. That is the unshaken, unbroken, unwavering strength of the youth of Pakistan, which accounts to around 68% of Pakistan's population. It goes on to show that as long as you have spirit, you cannot be broken. It goes on to show as long as you have faith in your own self, you have faith in your community and you have faith in your future. In 2021, the UNDP published a report on youth and climate change perceptions, and it identified that around 11.7% of youth have lost a family member to climate disasters in Punjab. 7.9% have suffered severe damage to their homes in Sindh, and 19% had to migrate from their provinces. It goes on to also say that around 42% of the youth have a conception of how to address climate change, but they do not have the capacity or the capability to address climate change. Knowing something and being able to do something about it are both different things. I might know about a certain academic fact or scientific fact. If I don't know how to make or break it, it does not mean anything for me. So, in the spirit of resilience, in the spirit of development, in the spirit of youth empowerment, Pakistan actually did a series of firsts. In fact, I should say celebrated a series of firsts in 2023. United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change have an official youth constituency called Young Go. For the very first time in the history of Pakistan, the local conference of youth took place in Pakistan, the LCOI, which was attended by over 800 youth participants from every corner, every district of the country, what we call Chappa Chappa from Pakistan. What that led to was the creation of the very first policy paper representing the notes and voices of the youth, which reflected their own viewpoints from their respective communities. I'm an engineer. I helped Pakistan develop its renewable energy policy in 2019, but I designed it as an engineer. These youth, when they come up with their policy directives, they actually talked about how those policies are going to affect their livelihoods. So the concept of just transition was embedded into these demands that the youth had actually come up with. It gave a very humanitarian and a very social perspective to what we do as professionals in our lives, in our careers. That is what is missing in the whole mix, the perspective of youth, which is grounded in empathy, it is grounded in emotion, and it is grounded in, once again, I repeat myself, resilience. Alcoy was followed by the Regional Conference of Youth, which again Pakistani youth were represented at. Then was the Conference of Youth, in which the Global Youth Statement was developed. For the very first time, the perspectives of youth were added to the Global Youth Statement, which was presented at COP28 and will be added in one of the negotiations track as part of the youth voices from across the globe. But there was a trailblazer to all of these things, which is COP in My City. COP in My City was implemented by the Ministry of Climate Change in support with UNDP, UN Women, and UNICEF. This was the second year that COP in My City was successfully launched in Pakistan, but the first time that youth from across Pakistan were shortlisted. They were brought to COP28. They were brought here to to represent Pakistan, to represent the youth of Pakistan. And I see some faces from COP in my city. I would like all of you to stand up. And I would like everyone to give them a round of applause. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the future of Pakistan. This is the spirit of resilience I was telling you about. These youth represent every province of Pakistan, every city, every district of Pakistan. They are going to go back home and they will make the change that we as adults were never able to make. Please have a seat. And this is the spirit of this session today. The next 1 hour will take you through an emotional roller coaster of a journey. You will experience the highs that we experienced when we taught these kids. You're going to go through all the lows that we went through when we were trying to figure out how to bring these kids to Pakistan or to Dubai. What else can be done to improve the process? And I hope that for some of you out there, this COP in my city is going to be a solution to implement in your own communities, in your own countries. With that, I'm actually going to invite my co host, my partner in crime, my friend Hafsa, to actually take us through the presentation for COP in my city. Give a round of applause to Hafsa.
Thank you so much, Vikas. And yes, partner in crime, I think is the right word. So, as Vikas has mentioned, that this is the first time we are bringing students over here, youth over here, and I think it's the one of the biggest achievement I had during the last year. So quickly, I'll try to showcase what COP in my city is all about. The objectives, the very basic objectives of COP in my city was to build the gap between the policymakers and between one of the biggest voices of our country, that is our youth, which is about 68% of the population. So they should have a very strong role in the policy making and in the implementation of those policies as well. But because of the gap, we couldn't figure it out that how can we give them a platform where these voices can be heard and they can be engaged into meaningful discussions. For that, we launched COP in my city. So the process started in July with the registrations, taking onboarding our mentors. I'm glad that our mentors are with us today as well, and our ambassador. This was the agenda of the program. We started with the registration. We had online training session. These are the capacity building sessions on the very basics of climate change, as well as on the very core thematic areas of COP. There was different competitions between that, the provincial competitions and essay writing competition. After that rigorous, I would say, a series of competition, we had 8 successful candidates here who are representing Pakistan from all the provinces of Pakistan at COP28. As I said, this is one of the biggest goal, you would say, when we started this initiative, that we have to take COP in my city to each and every province of Pakistan. In our next year phase, we are trying to bring it to all the districts of Pakistan as well. But this is how we started, and I'm really glad and happy to share that we achieved this goal, and we had provincial conclaves competition in all the provinces of Pakistan, and students and youth from all the provinces participated in that. So this was the application background breakdown. We received more than 1,500 applications, most from the Punjab, least from the AJK, but we got applications from that as well. This was the basic gender allocation. When we received the applications, 44% for the female and 55% for the 56% for the male. But when the first round of evaluation was done, that was a really good surprise for us, all of us, that in all the provinces, the women surpasses the percentage. And that is, I think, a big applause for all the young ladies over here and the ladies over here. The training session we conducted, most of them during the August, and one at the last that was on the capacity building. We capacitized the students on different thematic areas, including decarbonization, just transition, gender inclusiveness, and all that. These are the areas where students were tested during their provincial competitions. Um these are some of the pictures you can see of our conclave engagement. We started from Islamabad, then Peshawar. The number of students participated in that, the number of students who won from that city, like 10 won from Peshawar. Then we went to Lahore, Quetta, Karachi, AJK, GB. and the last one we had in Bahawalpur. What we collected the cream from these provinces, and these 56 participants, which are who are basically the winners from the provinces, they participated in our finale, and these are the glimpse of finale where you can see our winners, you can see our guest speakers over there as well. So when we talk about the outcomes of COP in my city, obviously a lot of capacity building has been done, awareness has been done. Youth got a platform where they can speak their voices and these voices will be heard. This is an example that they are here. They are engaging with a lot of pavilions, they're engaging with a lot of activities over here driven for the youth. And this is the platform which we really, really wanted to give to our youth. When we talk about the way forward, as I said, that it's not only that the provinces we are targeting, we want to take COP to each and every district of Pakistan. We want to take COP to each and every city of Pakistan. These 50 plus finalists, I would say, which we have selected from all over the Pakistan, will be my team for next year, and they will be engaging in their cities. They will be engaging in their district. They will continue with this platform, and we will start very early this year. We are planning to start from January and February, so that could reach out to most of the students or most of the youth in Pakistan. Thank you so much for that. And with that, I would like to yes, leave you with a little video. If we could play over here, and we could all hear it. Just a second.
Technologies in vast plains, an extraordinary journey, a journey that would shape the future, a journey that would lead to COP28. Our story begins at the Ministry of Climate Change. It was here that the first seeds of an ambitious pioneer were sown. Countless hours were spent meticulously planning every detail, making sure that no stone was left unturned. The team needed guidance, mentorship, and expertise. They set out to onboard mentors who could provide the necessary wisdom. Recognizing the power of our youth, the team wanted to provide a platform for these passionate voices to be heard. So an online registration process was launched that reached every corner of the nation. Universities, volunteers, and youth ambassadors from across Pakistan joined the cause, becoming key partners in this mission.
क्लाइमेट चेंज ने एक प्रोजेक्ट इनिशिएट किया है जिसका नाम है कॉप इन माई सिटी warriors and women to vote, and so this opportunity is especially important for parents.
In the third chapter of our journey towards COP28, we shifted our focus to empowering the minds of our youth delegates through a series of online capacity building sessions.
Well, through the first quarter of 2020, a big part of Pakistan was still submerged underwater. Collaborate with all the delegates of Pakistan and all those who are part of the COP.
Giving you points and it is not transparent. Don't give us points. Give us roadmap.
पाकिस्तान है वो 1% कंट्रीब्यूट करता है क्लाइमेट की पोल्यूशन, लेकिन पाकिस्तान जो सफर कर रहा है वो 11% सफर है।
The commitment is already present in Hong. Even you have. You see, students at university, they have the knowledge, but what they do is there's no implementation.
Might have happened again.
How do we stop carbon emission over there? This is a big challenge.
symphony of passionate voices from every corner of Pakistan, united by a common goal to amplify their voices, to ignite change, and to be heard on the grand stage of COP28. Chapter 5 of our journey, should COP in my city achieve significant milestones? Our young participants came together from all provinces, each bearing a pink report filled with their passion, ideas, and aspirations, encompassing clean green Pakistan index indicators, including clean water, sanitation, solid waste, parks and trees, and hygiene. The pink report was not just a document, it was a testament to their dedication, their commitment, and their determination to make a difference. In the final chapter of our journey, it is time to reflect on the challenges we have faced, the lessons we have learned, and the future we are shaping. The journey was not just about a destination, it was about the countless initiatives that sprang from it. This may be the last chapter of the Pop in My City 2023 journey, but it is the beginning of a new chapter in the journey of our youth towards a sustainable and brighter future.
Thank you so much. And with that, I would like to once again raise thanks to UNICEF, UNDP, UN Women, especially to Kamran sir from UNICEF for the support he had with us throughout this journey. I think this would not have been possible without his support. Thank you so much. Now I would like to invite Miss Aisha Khan. You know Aisha Khan from very different perspective, but for us, for Cobb in my city, she is one of the biggest mentor. She's one of the biggest supporter, and she is the lady we all look forward for. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. Come to the podium.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum and good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to be here, and I'm grateful to the Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination and the organizers of COP in my city, especially guided by the able Hafsa Rizwan for putting this event together here. Youth represents a large portion of the global population, and for us in Pakistan, it means over 60% of our population. Youth is going to face a very difficult and different future, and that is what makes their role, I think, very critical. The being part of change is never easy, and being part of the transition force is even more difficult. This requires vision, it requires innovation, it requires courage to carve new pathways. Above all, staying focused and persevering against odds will be most important for the young people. But let me say that no mountain is too high to climb and no dream too high to achieve. This is also where I would like to give a word of caution to our young people because we are living in an age of instant gratification. People want things to change, transform suddenly. But transformation change is a slow process. In climate change, the only thing that we see happening suddenly is disasters. For the rest, everything takes time. So you will have to persevere, you will have to learn how to unlearn and then relearn because the future is not going to be easy for you. You're going to be the new change makers. I have been part of this COP journey in Pakistan, and as Hafsa very kindly said, one of the mentors. For me, it was not just an energizing and interesting experience to interact and engage with the youth, it also infused me with new hope because as I traveled through different regions and I interacted, I saw that the young people have a very powerful stance. They make very powerful arguments and they have a skill set which is needed to drive change in the future. This means that we can have hope in our future. I hope that your participation in COP is going to be a learning experience for you. And the lessons that you learn here, you will carry them back to your own country and you will use them in a meaningful way to make a difference in your own communities. COP in my city, as the name suggests, actually means making a difference in your city and in your community. So you will have ample opportunity now to learn what negotiations mean, because I think there is a lot of misunderstanding for people who do not participate in conference of parties about the conference itself. So I hope that you have developed a more robust understanding of what multilateral negotiations mean and how you need to take these lessons back and the outcomes and relate them to what is happening in your country and see how you can be change makers. So there's a lot that you people can do. The only thing is that climate change is a very vast subject. I've been working in this field for over 2 decades, but unless you carve out a niche area for yourself, you will just go all over the place and you'll not be able to make an impactful difference. So to make that difference, go around the different work streams, study the different areas, the arguments, and decide what is it that you want to do. So I think that, in our conversation in the little townhouse meeting sort of thing that we had 2 days ago, in which we had Dr. Abrar also speak with us, there was a very good exchange, and that is where I saw that all you young people have different ideas, you have different approaches, and there are different disciplines in which you want to make a difference. So that was really very encouraging for me to, on the spur of the moment, hear your original thoughts, your feedback streams, and what is it that you want to do. So I wish you good luck and I wish you all the best. And thank you very much for making me also a part of this journey. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rafi Alam, and I was also part of the COP in my city proceedings and was very, very lucky to be interacting with so many passionate young youth delegates that we have. We're now transitioning to the panel part of our discussion. I'd like to invite our panelists. Ms. Jumana Haj Ahmed is the Deputy Representative of UNICEF UN in Saudi Arabia and the Gulf region. Mr. Kamran Naim Saab, Abhi Ajanji, is a wash specialist at UNICEF Pakistan. Ms. Dulruba Haider is with Women, Peace and Security. May I invite you on the panel as well. Zainab Zahid is a young climate activist and a co-founder of Climate Forward Pakistan. Zainab, can I ask you to join us? Ms. Urmila Sarkar is Deputy Director of UNICEF Programs. And Mr. Waqas Idris, can you join us as well, please? Thank you, everyone. Ms. Haj Ahmed, I'd like to ask you what your impressions were of COP in my city and generally what you think are the most effective ways to incorporate youth voices in decision making to ensure a sustainable future. Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning, and thank you so much for inviting me to join you today. And I would like to start by congratulating you on such an amazing and impressive project. I get so excited when I saw the title COP in my city, because really that's what we in UNICEF try to promote and support, and that is promote engagement of children and young people in climate action, in influencing decisions relating to climate change. And it's impressive to hear that the participation of young people were included the different states or provinces in Pakistan. In UNICEF, we usually try to support the participation of the most vulnerable and the most disadvantaged. And this is really instrumental to make sure that those children and youth who are most affected have their voices heard at the policy making tables by the policymakers within their states and provinces, so that it is reflected in the policy work and the services that are being provided in each of the states. It's amazing to see that there's a high number of young people here in the room, but also as part of the national negotiations team. As some of you may know, the COP presidency this year, together with the Secretary General, have sent out an official letter to all heads of states, encouraging them to include youth in the national delegations so that youth are part of the negotiations and are part of the discussions. And what does that mean? It means that young people are prepared. They know what COP is, they know what their voice would mean, and that they are sitting on the table with adult policymakers negotiating. They're not sitting in the back, they're not taking notes, but they are actually on the table negotiating their rights and their opportunities. And this is really very important because what we are promoting for is meaningful participation. And that is when the voice of a child or a young person influences the policy making to ensure that their priorities and rights are addressed. Um, it's amazing to hear about this exciting project and the number of young people who are participating. A question maybe that I was thinking about as you were presenting is how does this link to all of the children and young people in the country? How does it link to climate education? Is the school system providing all the children and young people with the skills and information and knowledge that you have all learned? Is the school system providing them with the skills and the opportunities to lead action within their societies? And that's what we aim for. And that is institutionalization of climate education, of climate action in all settings, in the schools, in the communities, and within the policy making processes. And maybe to finalize and mention is to see how also these young people in these provinces are now engaging in policy making at the national level. So, for example, if there is the national adaptation plan at the national level, obviously is one, but also policies relating to climate education at the state or provinces level. And this is important because eventually where youth really make a huge difference is within their communities and within their states, the states where they live. And from experience and evidence has shown that that is the most meaningful participation because that's where they're influencing the services that they're getting every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Heather, could I ask you specifically about how we can ensure that displaced youth have access to education and platforms to voice their experience and insights on climate change?
Um, I think the whole idea of, as my previous speaker was talking about, the education is extremely important, but for the displaced youth, it's doubly important and doubly difficult. Education, not just education, skill development, these are essential and sort of a part of their right to be. Okay. Am I audible?
No.
Probably not.
Where's that deaf man?
Okay. I mean, education and skill, which is absolutely important for youth, be it, from any background, whether they are displaced or not. And I think what is happening today is that something is wrong. Okay. Because what's happening around is that we are every day bombarding the youth about the sort of impending doom. Yeah, climate change, it's happening, and it's gonna, the deluge coming, the cyclone coming, flooding coming, and the world is going through. Okay, so So that bombardment is going on, and the youth today is very much scared of the future. So that's not, enough, because youth are the force, you are the energy, you are the strength. So you can do a lot that the current leadership, existing leadership, isn't able to deliver, as we are seeing around. So what we need is for the youth of today, and especially in this part of the world, in the South Asia, we have heard in Pakistan, it's 58% of the population is youth. Like I'm from Bangladesh, and in Bangladesh, it's like 52% is youth. So you are critical mass, and you are only human on part of with the doomsday scenario. You are not necessarily skilled.
ये लगा रहने देना इसको क्या करना इसको चल लगा इसी में होता
I mean, it's one thing
है अच्छा
to get, of course, the need for demanding the change in the policies and what's happening in the so that is one thing. We have to demand to the policy makers. We have to demand that we want and we demand and we have the right to get a better future and not a doomsday scenario. That's one. But on the other side, you also, as the citizens of the earth, also have each one of us, and especially those who have more energy and more strength than we are ourselves, who are at the end of our life cycle. So you have a lot of potential in the things, right? Especially, I mean, life cycle. Are you living your life? Simple things like cutting off your lights, using less water, those kind of things. Those will not probably be game changer, but that would be insignificant either. Yeah? Each one of us, as the citizens of the world, we have to play our own. Yeah. We have to play our own parts. And because you are 50% of the population and the leaders, all of you in 10 years' time will be in the leadership position where you will be talking about the policies. Although we don't have 10 years, we don't have the luxury of 10 years, the way the world is going, we need something within the two years, the decisions. But the reality is, in 10 years' time, the world will be here. And all of us have to keep on working on climate action. So I think it's very important that we educate our youth and give this life skills training and knowledge to act in terms of the way we live in this world. I mean, the simple thing, for instance, the what is development? So the current scenario, the current understanding of development is more roads, more buildings, yeah, more high-rise buildings. But now we have started to see that that probably isn't the right way of looking at development. So when all the youths are being educated or trained, your mindset has to probably start shifting towards the nature-based solutions rather than built environment, rather than high-rise buildings and all those things. The way the world has seen development so far, that has taken where we are today, and that's not a sustainable development. So we have to rethink. So that is linked to education, that is linked to skill development, and that's absolutely critical for all the youths in the world, and definitely in this part of the world, because half of the population consisted of yourselves, of the youth. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I do appreciate your exhortation not to give in to doomerism. And if I have any advice to give these young delegates, it's that it's perfectly fine to be skeptical, but please don't be cynical, because that means you're not thinking about the future that you can change. I'd like to turn now to Ms. Sarkar and ask you about how youth activism and climate change differs between the global north and the global south, and what lessons can be learned from these differences, And what sort of strategies can be implemented to bridge the awareness and resources gap between youth activists in the South and the North?
Sure. Thanks very much for the question. First, just to say that, like all of the previous speakers, I'm really honored to be with all of you today and to hear about all the great work that you've been doing. I'm definitely technically not a young person, but I feel very much like a young person at heart, and one that has been a former student leader, youth leader in my home country, Canada, and very much believe in international solidarity around very common challenges we face around the world, such as climate change, that is basically a global challenge. And I've been to Pakistan before, worked there, and seen all, the resilience, but also the bright ideas and innovation from all of you, and looking forward to actually be there, flying there Sunday for a couple of days. I haven't been since before COVID-19. So I'm really excited that I could come to the event and learn more about your work. As Jumana was mentioning, UNICEF worldwide has been doing a lot of work, not only to improve the lives of young people and children around the world, but also to encourage young people to be civically engaged and including in climate action. And lots of work has been going on worldwide to do that for young people. And just to say, as my previous speakers have said, in Pakistan, there's been a disproportionate impact on Pakistan, particularly vulnerable to climate change. We know that Pakistan is one of the most vulnerable, but only contributing maybe like 1% to the problem that we see in terms of global greenhouse gas emissions. And so we know that there's also frequent and intense flooding, changes in rainfall patterns, melting glaciers, and this is affecting worldwide, not only in Pakistan, in Bangladesh. I was in Brazil earlier, in North America. I mean, all over the world. When we talk about the global and North and South, I'm not sure we can make a distinction when we talk about global issues like climate change. And we also saw that in the COVID-19 pandemic. Worldwide, young people were affected, and we needed to come together to deal with the issues. But for Pakistan in particular, and I did want to focus on that in my intervention, not only do we have a significant proportion of young people, but I think it's important to point that there's a staggering 33% of young people not in training, education, or employment. And it's something that we really need to do something about. But at the same time, we have the bright minds and energy of young people like all of you and all across the country. So I firmly believe that with the energy of you, you are the leaders of tomorrow. You're going to be the change makers, that you'll be able to do something about this challenge in Pakistan. And other countries, whether it be in the global north, can actually learn from all of your innovations. What I did want to say, that it's important to integrate skills, especially climate adaptive skills, informal as well as non-formal education, promoting innovation, also looking at it in terms of entrepreneurship, apprenticeships, and job placements. Green businesses can help empower young people to tackle climate change, as well as provide you all with meaningful skills and opportunities. So I did want to add that UNICEF has supported a variety of different types of partnerships that have been really important. And one of them is the Generation Unlimited. It's a public-private youth partnership anchored in UNICEF with a mission to skill and connect the world's 1.8 billion young people to opportunities in entrepreneurship, employment, and civic engagement. So the priorities for Gen U are really looking at a life cycle approach to education, skilling, especially green skills and employment, with a cross-cutting focus on digital and green. We know that in Pakistan, there's a lot of focus being done to scale this up and strengthen this public-private youth partnership in this space. And this is being done a geographical footprint in over 80 countries worldwide, and increasingly lots of international exchange and solidarity around the world. Another point I did want to make is there's a specific aim of UNICEF and Generation Unlimited to look at investing in soft and technical skills and mentor young people for their social and political engagement. I did want to say that COP in my city, and what I'd seen from the presentation and from what all of you said, I think it's a really important approach that puts you at the forefront of making change. But not only that, the ideas and initiatives you have, that you have the opportunity of your innovation to be put at scale because you're working so closely with government and with other agencies and also with civil society. So you're ensuring that the most vulnerable are reached. And I think that's really commendable the approach. And I'm glad that you could find a space in this humongous COP28 to be able to share that. I was also asked to share a little bit about the Living Indus Challenge, a call to action to restore ecological health of the Indus River in Pakistan, which is vulnerable to climate change. Really great for myself to learn more about that in collaboration with FAO, the National Incubation Center in Lahore, initiated by Pakistan. Looking for actionable solutions for Pakistan's sustainable development problems, particularly with the triple planetary crisis affecting the whole world: climate action, environmental degradation, and the loss of biodiversity. There's a lot of different examples. I was really impressed to hear, and coming from Canada, I hear of similar initiatives, but this innovation of a young girl who worked on food packaging, and her startup is called Husk Cradle. And Husk Cradle provides eco-friendly food packaging designed from what husks to replace single-use plastics in applications in various sectors, from hawker centers and street food vendors to cafes and restaurants, universities, and office canteens. We've had enormous, even through the Generation Unlimited, lots of really interesting innovations by young Pakistani youth that happy to share, more about if you haven't connected with them already. We have Mr. Saeed and Mr. Hanza here with the COP that initiated the Dronaton startup, focusing on revolutionizing market agriculture and geomapping against other sectors by utilizing swarm drones. Their technology allowed an integration of agricultural service jobs into the swarm of drones as opposed to single functionalities per drone. Just to say that these are all kind of innovations that come up by young people. So as the previous speakers were saying, that you're the future generations, you're going to have a lot better ideas than me about finding our way forward. And now I know that all these startups innovations are getting support through design thinking, through marketing, branding, sales, and modules, and so on. And when we just to share that today and over this week, we've been launching an initiative called Green Rising, which is really mobilizing young people. You may have heard about it. You're nodding your head, but there's another event that I'll go to right after, of young people really leading the way in climate action and really developing those skills, experiential learning approaches from the communities, and also taking that back into school through community service learning. We have other initiatives like the Global Volunteers Initiative, Imagine Ventures, Youth Challenge, which looks at ways that young people like yourselves can advance climate action, sustainable development goals while getting a dignified livelihood. So just to end that, I'm really, I'm proud to hear about what you're all doing and would look forward to connecting you also with young people like yourselves around the world, whether it be the global north, the global south, because together we have to work together if we're going to solve the climate crisis and have a more sustainable future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scott. I'd like to turn to Mr. Naeem. You were very much part of the COP in My City exercise in Pakistan. Can I ask you what key takeaways from the exercise can be applied globally to enhance youth participation?
Thank you very much. Yes, when this idea of COP in my city was being hatched, actually we have Hadika here originated this idea, and with it had a wow factor. And we said, okay, yes, we cannot take all the youth to COP, but at least we can take COP to them and involve them more. So that's how it started. I think there are a number of processes that are engaging youth, and but this has been a very powerful for not only engaging them but meaningfully involving them, and then through a step-by-step process bringing up youth to represent youth of Pakistan in at the COP, global COP. So I think that has to be done in many countries. Many countries are struggling. The most informed youth are able to make their way to COP, or those who have accreditation, or there are several factors that we see youth here, but those are not from the grassroots level. So I think COP in my city would be one takeaway that would can be replicated everywhere else in the world for more involvement, engagement, and selecting youth for representing that country from the grassroots level. That's, I think, the most strongest point from COP in my city.
Thank you. Vikas, can I turn to you now, please? I enjoyed your presentation in COP in my city. What sort of innovative ways you think technology can be used to enhance engagement and understanding of young people in climate action?
Okay. Thank you so much. I really loved all of your responses. I just want to start by quoting Iqbal. Uh, तुम दिए बाद मुखालिफ से ना घबरा ए औकाब ये तो चलती है तुझे ऊंचा उड़ाने के लिए. I'm going to translate it. O eagle, do not be afraid or weary of the tempest and violent winds. They only blow so that you can soar high. And that is basically where the youth is right now. We talked about doomerism and we talked about skepticism. All of these issues that we have are only opportunities should you choose to kind of make them as opportunities or turn them into opportunities. And that is where your question actually comes in. There are innovative technologies, there are innovative avenues to explore for the youth. Access to those is another issue, especially for the global south. But that does not mean that should not preclude you from actually trying to come up with innovative ways of using or leveraging those technologies. For example, as part of COP in my city, when I was at MIT, we developed a software called Climate Fresk, En-ROADS, that's the other one. En-ROADS actually helps you model climate simulations. So it gives the policy something to actually fed into a model where you can see the global temperatures. So it gives everyone an appreciation of where our policies are going to take us. That is on the laptop or the IoT side of things. The other is if you do not have access to these technologies, you can play card games. Another very important card game that has taken off in Pakistan across the globe as well is called Climate Fresk. It's based on the IPCC 6th edition. So you play cards and you have to like arrange them in an order to get an appreciation of what the causal relationship is between human actions, anthropogenic activities, and violent crimes that happen because of that. So what is the intricacy or the intricate web between these? The sad part is that P21 education globally means that we have to work upon the meta skills, the cognitive skills, life skills, and social skills. In Pakistan, we are mostly focused on right now are the life skills. Meta skills and cognitive skills are where these IoT or the innovative technologies are embedded in. And that requires more access to these technologies. Having said that, youth now in Pakistan have come up with multiple avenues where they leverage technologies. For example, there's a very fabulous app which actually helps you track your own carbon footprint in a Pakistani setting. There's another one where you can actually see how much plastics you are using on a daily basis, what your plastic usage is. There's a company which is a startup by a youth. It's called Davam for Life. It helps you actually take your single-use plastics and refill them for shampoos, conditioners, for water bottles, or for different avenues. There are youth who are actually turning apps into money-making opportunities through which they're using for their communities. So there are definitely avenues where you can actually try out and you can leverage for your own linking and for your understanding of the climate problem. And I just want to finish off by saying we mentioned about the curriculum. It's not an integral or formal part of education. It doesn't have to be. When I was growing up, I never studied anything about climate change. What we studied was the water cycle. That was the extent of climate change for me. If you have an interest in a subject, formal education should not be in the way to actually tell you what to do or not to do. There's YouTube, there's Wikipedia, there's so many avenues right now that I honestly feel like saying that formal education, it's important, is usually used as a crutch now. We don't study it at school, so we don't need to study it or we don't have the opportunity to study it. Like I said with Iqbal, try to find opportunities within those issues or problems. Thank you so much. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Gus. We're joined by Ms. Karen Olson, who's the Senior Advisor and Carbon Markets Coordinator at UNEP Copenhagen. Karen, I'll ask you a question in just a second. I don't want to throw you in the deep end as you've just arrived. So I'll turn to Zainab Zahid as co-founder of Climate Forward Pakistan. Zainab, can you tell us a little bit about how a platform like CFP can be utilized and how you're utilizing it to enhance the capacity of youth in engaging in international climate discourse?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. So before I answer that, I'll just give a brief background of where essentially I am coming from and what was the motivation behind the CFP. So CFP is a youth-led organization, and we aim to empower and engage young people through an informed advocacy, so that they can be better, participants as well as enablers of climate action, climate activism, as well as climate advocacy. So we work on all the three tiers when it comes to climate space. So I have a research background, and I briefly have experience of working with the research and policy think tank as well as the World Meteorological Organization. So the perspective is like national as well as intergovernmental, I would say, right? So after all the activism in international space as well as engaging in the national space, I, as well as my co-founders, felt the need to have an institutionalized participation of young people in Pakistan, because essentially if you see, young people are working in silos, but we don't have a platform where we can come together and organize ourselves. So essentially we are aiming to build CFP as a platform where it's not only us doing things for young people, but young people can also come and bring their ideas so that we can work together. Secondly, with regards to the key activities that we are planning, a lot of people in the panel have mentioned about climate education. And before COP, I was actually in one of the roundtables with Dr. Adil Najam in the Ministry of Education. And one representative actually said what essentially Wakas also mentioned, that when we talk about the climate education, we want to include everything in our curriculum, which is essentially not important, because all different people coming from the different sectors want everything to be included in the curriculum, and it's actually including weightage to the books that young people have, kids have. So we need to find the formal as well as informal means of including climate education, and seeing how we can promote education through informal means. So essentially, this is first year of our engagement on which we have started working, and we are also thankful to the COP in My City team, Hafsa, Hadika, and everyone from the ministry. We conducted a 2-day masterclass for all the COP in My City finalists as well as semi-finalists. I hope it was useful for you who attended that. So, building on the previous experiences of participating at COPs through interactions with international young people, we prepared this comprehensive curriculum, which was delivered in the 2-day masterclass, and we aim to do activities like that even in the future. Secondly, one of the key point is the intergenerational equity on which we are working. Because when we talk about youth activism, we see that young people are doing work, they are pushing stakeholders to do better, but the link, or I would say the connection, is actually missing. So we aim to find the friends of youth working in different departments, be or stakeholders, I would say, be it like public sector, private sector, academia, or generally in a civil society. So we want to connect young people with these friends of young people, so that we can build that trust among the different generations, including experts and adults as well as young people. So this is the second tier, or I would say the value that we are working on. Third thing is the very important thing, actually, when we talk about youth activism or youth engagement, we design activities or engagement avenues for young people, and we just include them at the very end when the product is ready, right? So we want to push stakeholders to include young people in the process since the beginning, since to conceive the idea, include them so that you can make sure that it's actually meaningful and inclusive. You actually mentioned about meaningful engagement, right? So these are the avenues, and one example which Hafsa also mentioned, I would like to reiterate here again. You mentioned about the alumni network that you are going to create for these young people. So I think this is going to be more meaningful in the next, next year of the COP in My City program. So we need to create such avenues through which we can include young people from the very early on stage, so that it is for youth by youth. So we don't want adults to make decisions for ourselves, right? But here, accountability is very important. When we ask for stakeholders to include us, we need to be informed. We just don't want, I'm not against activism. I myself have worked my way up as an activist. But I also want to reiterate here for all the young people that it's very important to be informed, to have the knowledge of what you are advocating for. Just going in a strike, like chanting slogans and going back home, it's not gonna make impact. Activism is important, but basically translating that activism and ambition into action is also very important. So once we are doing this all activism, it's very important to have a very defined outcome and goal of where essentially it's gonna be, what is the outcome, and who are the key stakeholders to whom we can pitch our ideas. So that engagement is also something that we are working on through our friends of young people in the ministries, in the government, private sector, and all different stakeholders. Then fourth important thing is the skill building and soft skills, because there are a lot of opportunities out there in the international front, but essentially our national youth is missing, especially the underserved youth in a lot of provinces like Sindh, Balochistan, South Punjab, etc., etc. Now we are seeing that awareness is increasing, essentially because of very, I would say, the increasing engagement and informed activism and advocacy among young people. But we also want to work on, that gap where we can bring those international opportunities to Pakistan, leverage the opportunities which are out there, which global north is providing us to the global south people, and help that connect. Because I think there is a lot to think from the global north, because essentially young people, even if you see in the global north countries, they also want to support young people in the global south. Meanwhile, the engagement between the Asian countries is also, I think, important thing which we are working on, because essentially it's also very important to share the best practices that we other people in the other, South Asian countries or in general Asian countries are implementing, because there is a lot which we can learn from themselves, what worked for them. Bangladesh is one of the good example where we have seen that young people are being informed in the policy making process. We have seen it in this case. You all have the party overflow batch, all the participants, but we want to see young people negotiating in the in the negotiation. We want you to see young people having a party badge. But I think it's very important to have the capacity building and training of young people, which is the responsibility of the stakeholders who have that capacity to take action for young people. And I think young people also need to do more in Pakistan to have that kind of informed advocacy where they can actively and effectively engage with the stakeholders. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Zainab, for that incredibly clear-headed insight. And I think you and your co-founders, Durlab and Jawad, are doing fantastic work with Climate Forward Pakistan. Ms. Olson, I'd like to turn to you now. Could you please let us know more about the SPAR 6C program, the Supporting Preparedness for Article 6 Cooperation, and the COP ASEC underneath that, and also generally on youth activism in Denmark and beyond?
Yes, and good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning. You hear me?
Yes.
So thanks for the invitation to be here. It's a pleasure to see the representatives of the young people and all the rest of you, and to be in this panel. Thanks to Hafsa, Hadika for inviting and organizing. So my background is as researcher for many years, supervising young people coming at the master's level or below at bachelor's level. So from academia, we work with young people, and I always enjoyed that a lot because of the energy. We clearly see the energy, the optimism, the idealism coming from young people that you often, when you grow older, you can become a little bit cynical because you've seen, I've worked in 20 years on climate change, and it's moving too slow, clearly. So after a while, you become a little bit, what are the results? It's too slow, it's too little in climate change. We have a climate emergency. Greta Thunberg, very young, have articulated this so clearly. I see her as a young person. She has a diagnosis. She's on the spectrum of authenticism. And that makes her, in my view, that makes her have superpowers. And in a way, I also see that the young people have kind of superpowers compared to some of the older people. And that model of working, supervising young people with that energy, and I love to work with young people for that reason, we want to get them into the Spark program. and that is supporting preparedness for Article 6 cooperation, its market mechanisms. It's super complex, very technical, but also with huge opportunities to achieve NDC implementation through involvement of private sector. And here we need skills, and we need skills that are developed over time. It takes time to develop skills. We need the young people from universities to contribute, to get into government, to get into private sector, and not work work intergenerational, but also work, we call it transdisciplinary, breaking down silos between the government community, the private sector. Government people talk to government people, private sector talk to private sector, academia talks to academia. But in the COP ASIC approach, we want to involve young scholars with all that energy and get them educated to contribute to implementation of market mechanisms through the Spark program. Hafsa is leading this. We know the Dr. Saima Hadika and a lot of other people in Pakistan. So with the funding from the global north, you could say, funding comes from Germany, 20 million euros, 2 million in Pakistan. It's quite a big program over 5 years. We want to build that community of young people. Training you in school include climate change markets in the curriculum of universities. And we bring, when you are done with your master thesis, we will fund internships so that you can go either private sector, government, or you could stay in academia, build the networks, and be the young generation that builds capacity in all of Pakistan. I mean, we're not, it's not all the funding going to the community of practice, but it is significant funding. And we do hope that we are going to sow the seeds for this knowledge development going forward. And you are the change that we need. We need it desperately. So we have a lot of hope and faith in you as the young ones. And it's great to see you here.
Thank you so much, especially for acknowledging the very clear superpowers that are present amongst us today. Comes to the end of our time for this panel. I'd like to request everyone to join me in appreciating our panelists. Thank you very much. Sure. Have a cup of tea. Let's have a photograph. Yeah. Thank you very much.